moving on. So biomedical. So this is from the Oxford English Dictionary, of or relating to biomedicine or relating to both biology and medicine. Okay, so biomedicine, the branch of medicine concerned with the application of the principles of biology, biochemistry, etc., to medical research or practice. Medicine, the science or practice of the diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of disease, in technical use often taken to exclude surgery. The medical establishment or profession, professionally, medical practitioners collectively. So does the medical in biomedical informatics include other professions such as nursing, pharmacy, physiotherapy? We get some nodding. I'll tell you, so I came into informatics, as I already told you, as a patient perspective. And I thought my nurses were great, generally. I had one nurse yell at me because I was rude to my mom. That was probably a good thing. But I couldn't believe there was this divide. We had a medical informatics department and we had a nursing informatics department, and they sure didn't want to blend them. I don't know what the state is here, Kathleen.
Yeah, well, we refer nationally to health informatics because we have a more inclusive interprofessional approach to healthcare. So we do not privilege medical informatics over allied health informatics or nursing informatics or any other kind in our national organizations and our national conferences and so on.
But you can see again with definitions, if I am defining this as the medical profession, what kind of solutions I want to proffer are going to be different than if I'm thinking more broadly. Does biomedical informatics include patients? I cut it out for space. Nursing has a very patient-centric definition of itself in the International Nursing Association or something, the patient's response to various states. And this is the Oxford English Dictionary. It's not some medical professional society stating, but patients aren't here per se. It's a disease. It's a disease. How do I diagnose that disease, and how do I treat that disease? Uwe Reinhardt, who I've mentioned several times, I'll provide you a link to this eventually, in a talk at University of Michigan, in Webster's, which is the American dictionary, a patient is a person under medical treatment. It eventually comes from Latin, which means to suffer. I'm with that. But he also claims that a patient is a biological structure yielding cash, or a BSYC, which reminded me of, do you know how airlines view passengers? Anyone associate? I'm sorry if anyone's affiliated. I don't like flying, but no offense. A passenger is self-loading luggage. So a patient is a biological entity yielding cash. Okay, so obviously I'm going to tell you that patient's lived experience is a very vital part of what we mean by informatics. And so here's just a couple of pictures from kind of graphic illness narratives that I've taken. So I want to just kind of share some with it. This is someone that got diagnosed with, I can't remember exactly, but she loses her voice. And so she gets the diagnosis, she comes home on her bike, she goes up the stairs, and what does she do? She starts searching the web. And just look at that bottom row. Someone tell me what that bottom row says to you. There's a lot of information. So I described how my parents had no information in 1976. And now probably the problem isn't getting, Malawi aside. It's how do I navigate through and find, information that's going to be useful to me. This is a kind of a similar one. This is from a book called Mom's Cancer. And it's a son trying to look up what kind of treatments should they be talking to the physicians about for his mother. Again, kind of overwhelming. And I'm sorry that the side got blurred in my copying, but this is Cancer Vixen. She gets a diagnosis, you've got stage 4 breast cancer. These are the questions that are just immediately popping through your mind. Anyone been in a situation like that? You're told something and then your mind just starts racing off with the questions of, and it's kind of get a kick out of this bad hair day. You know, you're going to lose the hair. Here's mom in mom's cancer. So what comes out to you on the first thing I'd ask, you know, and probably do, you know, revisit these pictures and other pictures later, is I'd say, well, what kind of data are we collecting here, or should we be collecting here, and how would we represent it? Does she? What was the autonomy? Was that your point of well-being? Does she look like she has much well-being? Anyway, okay, so that's health and biomedicine. And so, like Kathleen said, we're going to have a very broad, you know, maybe, you know, the biomedical is kind of historical anachronism. That we're definitely taking a very broad view of what we mean by medicine. Informatics is kind of interesting. So this is the Oxford English Dictionary, because I just love digging into all where our words all came from. And so we have originally, after Russian informatica, compared German informatica, French informatique. It's likely that the Russian, German, and French nouns were coined independently of each other. The 3 foreign language nouns were originally semantically distinct. German informatic originally denoted the automated processing of information. I think that's kind of an important thing to keep in mind. French informatique, the branch of study dealing with information processing in general, although especially by automated means. And Russian informatica, the theory of scientific information. However, in later use, in non-English speaking countries, informatics generally now means what in English we simply refer to as computer science. But ultimately, the Oxford English Dictionary definition is, with singular or rarely plural agreement, the branch of study that deals with the structure, properties, and communication of information, and with means of storing or processing information. So here are some of the early uses of the word in English. In 1967, informatics is the discipline of science which investigates the structure and properties, not specific content, of scientific information, as well as the regularities of scientific information activity, its theory, history, methodology, and organization. People have largely removed scientific from that. Here's my favorite definition. It comes from the University of Edinburgh. Informatics is the science of information. It studies the representation, processing, and communication of information in natural and artificial systems. Since computers, individuals, and organizations all process information, informatics has computational, cognitive, and social aspects. So it's not just a computer, it's not just a person, it's persons, groups, and computers, and all the pairings you can come up with those.